Welcome back to Crossroaded, the only no-filtered moto podcast out there. I'm your host, Eric Nichols, and this week we are going to talk a little bit about some 250 East-West shootout that we had out in Indy. 450, interesting as always. But first, joining me this week, my only co-host, Justin, just got done ripping up Lake Havasu. Justin, how's it going?
What's up? I don't know about ripping, more like rolling around, but we finished at least, and yeah, two-man show tonight. No one else but us two. So even extended it a day and just
Well, it's the best two, so that's all that matters.
the two
Um,
the two committed ones.
Exactly. Yep. Zach and CJ won't be able to join us this show. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, so we spent an hour and a half recording Daytona Supercross just to find out that the software that we used did not record it properly. So that basically went to waste. But we're gonna jump ahead straight to Indy and Justin. Let's jump right into it. Really, the only developing story I knew going into is just the 250 East-West shootout. I don't think there was any other big news heading into Indy that I can think of. How about you?
Not really any news like rider wise. I thought the one huge thing I think we had for our sport before Indy was the Pat McAfee show collab. I
Oh
think the
yeah,
McAfee show collab with Supercross, I think Feld reaching out to him and actually putting something together. He had Colt Nichols on there. That's huge for our sport. McAfee's the top sports show in all of sports right now, ESPN. I didn't look to see what the views were, but I'm sure that probably had 50 to 60,000 people live watching that. So that's huge for our sport to get that kind of exposure. I know after they did some riding in his parking lot or around the Thunderdome, so I'm interested to see who those videos come out. It looked like Fly threw in some gear. I thought the funniest thing of that whole thing is McAfee's rolling around, his helmet's not even buckled at all. And he's just out there ripping Colt 450. I'm like, oh god, I can see this going bad. One little pebble, the helmet goes bouncing everywhere. But it was cool to see our sport get that exposure. I mean, it's been a while since we had, back in the day we had McGrath, and I think RC was with him on like the Saturday Night Live and the Letterman show. So it's been a while since we kind of had that big news exposure.
yeah, no, it was really cool. Regardless what rider you put out there, it doesn't matter. I know a lot of people are asking, why was Colt picked out? Anyone? It seems like there was a bit of a pecking order of what they went down to, and Colt just happened to be the only one that was available at that time. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's really cool exposure. It was bum. I don't think McAfee actually went to the race. That's kind of what I was hoping for, that he's going to go down there and get that all on his social media, get that full experience and really kind of promote the sport. But from what I saw, I don't think he got out there. But yeah, no, still, still awesome, exposure for the show for him, for them to get on there. Pat McAfee, it's cool for him to have them on there too. And yeah, no, absolutely. I know the whole moto industry was pretty stoked seeing that Colt was going to be on the Pat McAfee. But
We need to get McAfee down to Ironman this year for MX the Nations. I think
yeah.
that would change his whole feeling about Supercross and outdoors. He'd be like, these are my kind of people. He'd be out there fighting Frenchies, freaking Belgium, whoever he's got to fight out there. We already know he's got that thing with Canada rift going on. Maybe him and Pulp can get into a boxing match or something.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, let's dive into it. As far as the track, the track map itself was pretty good. Nothing crazy that really stood out. But straight out of qualifying, you saw riders posting all over the place about how insane the track was, how gnarly it was, how rutted it got. It started all the way from press day. It started breaking down, and as we get into the races, we'll kind of talk about how important that start was to have that clean track and just kind of log your laps. But Justin, what do you think of the track overall?
I think this was just a typical Indy Supercross. I think every year they always complain, oh, it was so rough, it was so rutted, but it seems like Indy is that first really true, gnarly, super deep East Coast track. Something with, the dirt there. It's super soft, and people are always going left and right and can't really stay straight. It This track layout is kind of like a mini Glendale. The way they kind of had that start, the crossing over that start, that second like start
Hmm.
lane kind of. you had like an option to jump over the start with that table or whatever. So it's almost like a mini Glendale, and I think it worked pretty good. I kind of like that layout.
Yeah, I mean the sand was another successful sand section. We've seen it every single track this year. This one, putting that wall right in front of it was cool because we saw a few guys hop over it. We saw a couple guys kind of ride the edge and like jump off the berm, kind of. So yeah, that worked out. I thought the elevated turn before the finish line jump was kind of cool. That was kind of a technical obstacle for them to get out of. But yeah, I mean, it worked out pretty good, and then with it being Reddit, of course, that's always, another added factor. Going into lit kits, we know it was St. Jude's. There were a lot of good kits, head to toe. I saw RJ Hampshire was wearing all white head to toe. But how about you, Justin? Any St. Jude lit kits that stood out to you?
Not that I can really. I know FXR came out with some cool kind of black and simple black and pink stuff. I know
Hmm.
CJ would appreciate that. It wasn't crazy. It was kind of more of a simple tone for black and pink. I didn't really pay much attention. I saw some weird kind of. I think Fly had some different stuff. All the illustrations I saw after the race. It looked like Deegan, his jerseys, each like right here above like where his heart was at,
Hmm.
was like a special picture that a kid must have drawn or something. I think it was for multiple jerseys, so that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. There's a couple weird. I mean, the bikes were kind of cool. I thought maybe some of the teams would go a little bit more all out on them. It seems like only there's a few of them that really did anything. But Club, of course, had one of the best bikes. I think they're always going to have a top three bike looking every week, I think.
Yeah, I think with St. Jude, it's usually always more bikes than it is their kit and having anything special that's on them. But yeah, with the St. Jude, always a great cause. But yeah, you usually kind of see the same kind of artwork throughout the years. Kids scribbling toys, stuffed animals and things like that. But all right, jumping straight into qualifying. Obviously, it was a 250 East-West showdown. Deegan ends up getting the fastest with a 49 flat. Hammaker right behind him with a 49.2. Davies with a 49.6. Anstey 49.9. Vial 49.9. And Faulkner 49.9. And then the first one in the 50s is Julian Bomer. I mean, hey, we weren't sure what we were going to see when these two coasts came together. Deegan definitely stepped up for qualifying, laid down a heater. He looked comfortable basically all day long. Um, Julian's struggles kind of continued there, qualifying seventh, RJ all the way back at 12th, Bennett with a 16th. So, quite a few names kind of thrown down a little bit lower than what they normally are. But once again, that's 250 East West shootout to you. Justin, anything in the 250 class stand out?
For qualifying, three of the top five were star bikes. I kind of expected that. I think we were
Yeah.
talking about it, even last podcast, we were talking Davies and C. Deegan. I mean, those guys pretty much in almost any combination top five, they're definitely going to be up there. Um, Bo Mayer continues to struggle in the soft stuff. I think it could be a concern for his riding. Maybe they need to throw him east next year, so he could really learn some of those ruts. I mean, training all West Coast, seemed like he's great on those really hard packed tracks, but he struggled in Arlington. He struggled this weekend. Something definitely of a concern. RJ 12, that was a shocker. I
Hmm.
wasn't expecting that from him, especially since he's been on a roll. He won Daytona last week. Um, let's see, Forkner 6. I just saw that when you were saying that. I didn't realize he was actually 6. That's actually a step up for what we've been expecting from him. It's just still not good enough. I mean,
Yeah.
we expected Forkner to be a contender, and I mean, I think is this his best qualifying? Was a 6? I think it could be his best qualifying.
Yeah, I think it was, and I was hoping it was going to be maybe a time of, things changing, had some more time on the bike. I mean, we'll get into how the results worked out. All right, going on over to 450, not your norms up there. Ken Roxon 48.7, 2, Malcolm 48.76, Sexton 48.78, and then Webb 48.9, Jason Anderson 49. So I mean the top four, the top three were, right there on top of each other. But good to see Ken Roxon up there. Um, we'll get to the main. Would have been really interesting to see what he could have done on a track like that. Um, But yeah, I mean, just some notables, Dylan Ferrandis, seventh overall, Justin Cooper, sixth, Hill, eighth. Um, I mean, yeah, other than that, kind of the 450, not much has changed, week over week with them. Not much really going on with the qualifying, just, seeing Roxon up there. It did take a little bit for Sexton trying to get in his groove, but Justin, what about you, 450 qualifying?
Yeah, I think just Mookie being second was kind of another big shocker. He's kind of putting those one laps down and hanging in there with some of that speed. Sexton third. I thought Sexton may have would have came out and put the top lap down just with kind of he's got that thing to prove. I was expecting, him to come out and lead everything for qualifying and practice and just making that statement saying, "Hey guys, talk about all this, mental that. I'm still here." But failed to prove that again. Good for Kenny. Kenny looked very comfortable on that Suzuki. He keeps making me eat my words week after week after I said I thought he was gonna, first show I was like, man, I think this may be the year that Kenny, takes a step back and this may
Yeah.
be one of Kenny's better years we've seen, especially in the last 5 years. He's been very consistent, proven that top of the line speed. He's really making me eat my words, and I hate
But hey,
that.
it also goes down to, Tomac's missing, Jet's missing, Hunter's missing, though honestly all three of those guys probably do beat Kenny most of the time, I would say.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's allowed him to really kind of rise up. But yeah, fastest qualifier, that's something that we don't see too often from him. Um, all right, going into the 250 heats, first heat was the West Heat, and man, did Hay Deegan come out like a ball out of a cannon, dude. He came in with a message to approve. He got out there. He just kind of he checked out on these guys. Cole Davies with a second, Mosem in third, Marchbank fourth, Shimoda fifth, Shock sixth, Julian Belmare with a seventh. I know he was having to kind of fight his way up. Gavin Towers and then Jet Reynolds. But yeah, I mean that rounds out your 250 West Coast Heat one. But I mean, I don't think it's say enough. I think Hayden Deegan really kind of went out there and laid down the hammer.
He definitely did. Deegan was gone. He got out front, was gone. Like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, Bo Mare, once again, a seventh in a heat. Come on, dude. Something's
Hmm.
gotta click. He's gotta figure it out. I don't know what's been going on. All I can relate to is it the tracks? Is it just so soft and so rutted he's struggling that bad in it? That's the only thing I can think it is. I don't think it's really the mental thing. I think because if it was mental, he'd be crashing. He's still not
Hmm.
crashing. He's just not. He just can't figure it out on the track. It seems like it's almost like he's kind of Glendale when he wasn't taking those big risks. I think San Diego, he wasn't taking those big risks. He was just consistent, doing the same thing. I think on these rutted tracks, he's just settling too much to where he's not willing to push himself to that point
Hmm.
to, hey, I need to go this extra 10% in order to keep up with these guys. And maybe he's just trying to play the long game, hoping Deegan's and yard sales one of these rounds on the softer stuff. But I mean, it's got to be worrisome now. And the takeout of the night, Jet Reynolds,
Yeah.
I think it was Yoder, just absolutely murdering him on that 180 turn because I heard Yoder talk some shit back on the podium after the LCQ about it. So it must have been Yoder. But yeah, that was brutal. He almost took himself out of it.
Yeah, no, that was insane, and yeah, Reynolds barely makes it through. But hey, he did what he needed to do. But yeah, I mean that was really impressive. But yeah, back to Julian. I mean, who knows? I mean, it has to be a track thing. I know he had a wreck, but I mean, he just that the flash of that speed just hasn't really been shown for him on these ruddier tracks. And Ian, the key team manager, came out and said publicly that Juju's not good. With the ruts. He went to Baker's factory the week before Arlington, I think,
Hmm.
to try to get a little bit better. But I mean, it's just kind of one of those things. I grew up on the West Coast, and yeah, everything's hard packed out there. Now I'm out here in Texas, and it's a completely different ball game, running in ruts everywhere. So I mean, I could see it, being at that top level. It still makes a huge difference at that level.
And
Um,
1 week isn't enough. Why do they think sending him
yeah.
1 week before Arlington would be? And they're in Florida, so it's not like yeah, it does it get a little bit deeper, but still a lot of the tracks they're riding on Supercross are these hard clay tracks or these clay tracks that have these nice, not too deep ruts. Like They should have been like, hey, Master Pool, can we come to your house for a week or two, and getting that super soft, still clay, but it's a lot softer than that Florida clay, which holds up pretty well. Yeah, a week is way too short to send him over there to try to prepare him when Deegan's been riding
Yeah.
it for all year.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense just to throw him out there and hope he's going to improve a little bit. I mean, who knows? We don't know how much he did improve, but yeah, it doesn't make sense to me unless they just want to go out there and just kind of see where he kind of stacked up against Deegan. And then with this weekend and last weekend, Deegan's got a pretty comfortable points lead now, so
Yeah, I don't even.
they might be looking to next year over there at the Juju camp. Um, 250 East Heat. We have Max Anstey, RJ. We're going at it. And, Hammaker, Tom Vial fourth, Bennett fifth, Thrasher sixth, Mumford seventh, Hymus eighth, Maximus Volan ninth. And then we continue to talk about him, kind of getting sick of talking about him, but Austin Faulkner 19th, having to go through the LCQ. Um, but yeah, I mean, Justin, we keep talking about, Faulkner just really can't seem to get this figured out. And I don't think it's necessarily the bike. I think it's just more him. He's had those injuries. I'm sure it scared him. Kind of doesn't have the send limit that he used to have, and I think that's just the result of what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think Father Time's catching up to him. I think he's starting to think, got a kid on the way, had brain surgery. I keep killing myself every single year, can't finish the season. Maybe he's just finally backing it down because I don't think it's the bike. Jordan Smith has proved that bike can
Yep.
win. Jalik last year, I think, put it on a podium. So it's not a bike issue. I definitely don't believe it's a bike issue. It's a Faulkner issue. He needs
Yeah.
to figure it out. Or is he on a 1 or 2 year deal?
I don't know. Probably two, I would guess.
Probably two. So yeah, I mean, try on
And like to
maybe
me, like
maybe
it's
cutting
not
them short.
it's not I can't say it's a bike because the bike's not going to prevent him from laying down a heater. Like
Hmm.
yeah, it might impact him in the main event as the track gets rough, but during practice and qualifying where the track is, great and he still can't lay down a heater, that tells me that it ain't the bike. It's got to be him more.
And he
Um,
he keeps making these mistakes. Like you watch his practice and qualifying, he's running into the back of people. He's like just bobbling, tucking the front left and right. I think he had LASIK too as well after I think his Dallas crash because I think he said his contact fell out or something like that. So I wonder
yeah.
if maybe that has part of it too. Maybe LASIK isn't as good as it was before when he had contacts. I don't know how that works, but um, maybe they made him a little bit more blind.
Yeah, right. Maybe he's not used to seeing so clear. Who knows?
Yeah,
Um,
right.
all right, going on to 450 Heat number one. Malcolm kept that speed going, ends up getting the win over at Heat one, followed up by Barsha, Savachi, Webb with a fourth. Didn't look great. Well, actually, I think he went down, I believe. I think
Yeah,
he
he
went
went
down in the
down. Yep.
sand. Hill fifth, McIntyre sixth, Cooper seventh, A-Rod eighth, Harrison nine, and Chisholm just misses the cut. But yeah, I mean, Malcolm got kind of gifted there when Coop went down. Coop was well on his way to winning that, but hey, Jody Savachi third and Barsha second. Both really solid rides by all three of those guys.
Yeah, Webb kind of threw that one away by falling in that. He still got a fourth, which this start didn't really matter where. You had a top five gate pick or top five, in your heat. Pretty much had a decent gate pick no matter where you were at. Uh, but yeah, that's unfortunate for Webb to go down. Mookie gets another heat win. I think that's two or three heat wins for Mookie this year.
Think so, yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of Mookie talk. This is a CJ special show, and he's missing out. I mean, he had been over there with his fishing pole in the background, hyping it up, trying to catch a
Yeah,
bass. But um, yeah, it definitely is cool to see Mookie kind of up on top. There's been so much of that Lawrence talk. Oh, check out these brothers, check out these brothers. It's kind of cool to see Mookie actually put his name out there, not for him crashing or having a crazy fast qualifying and leading qualifying and then kills himself in the heat. So it's kind of cool to see he's kind of semi putting it together, a little consistent throughout these weeks.
yeah. He definitely seems like he's getting better. That's for sure. Going over into 450 Heat number two, Chase Sexton looked great. 49-second lap time, almost a second faster than the field. Followed up by Roxon, Ferrandis with a good ride, Plessinger, Anderson, Oldenburg, Nichols, Benny Bloss, Kevin Morans to round out the top nine. But yeah, I mean, it looked like Sexton was back in his groove, and he was gonna, be something to watch, heading into the main event and looking excited. But I mean, yeah, he just chalk it up to another heat race win for Chase Sexton. Nothing, nothing he hasn't done in the past.
Yeah, king of heat race wins, that's for sure. He figures it out. I mean, you could give him 5 minutes plus one, he's gonna go win that. But you give him 20 plus one, he's gonna kill himself.
Which is crazy because I mean, it's not like he dominates. Um, he doesn't dominate Triple Crowns.
No,
You think he would with all these
he
heat wins.
struggles in and he had, like you said, and he was a second faster than anyone else on that track.
Yep.
Which and it just never translates to the main. I just don't know. I don't.
Well, it does. It just hasn't been lately, which we'll get to
We'll
this
get
main
to all
event.
that.
But going into the LCQs 250s, Yoder, Turner, Colin Park, all very similar names that we see up there. And then Austin Faulkner with the fourth in the LCQ, barely making it into the main. So his struggles really kind of continued into there. Look at the rest of these guys. No one that really stands out, kind of more of your typical names, Justin. But 250 LCQ, anything you want to add?
I mean, just Forkner, that would be the only thing that I would have to add is he got lucky he got into that. And then Yoder calling out Jet Reynolds on the podium was great. I think he even talked trash about something that I've had him since amateur days, or
Dang.
I got to rewatch it because he definitely threw a jab at Reynolds. And uh, I mean, Yoder's had the better career than Jet so far.
No,
Although
Jet Reynolds, yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, not
Yeah.
Lawrence, but
Yeah, for
Jet
sure.
Reynolds, yeah. Um, just just thinking like, yeah, Yoder hasn't had that factory PC ride or anything, like that,
Yeah.
but he's proven consistently, even on a lower level tier bike, he can make a main consistently. Was he? I believe he was on a firepower. Was he or no? I might be thinking of Mumphy.
Mm.
Um, I think I'm thinking of Mumphy, but Yoder, he's been on these lower level, a couple Cali rides and stuff like that. So it'd be cool for Yoder to get a shot on a factory team or even
Or
like a
even just
club
club.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even just club.
club would be cool because I don't know how you keep Reynolds again.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, it's getting better, but I mean, I'm sure you can't cost very much. Um, Going
True.
over into the 450 LCQ, Norn gets a win, Chisholm second, Hand third, Robin with a fourth. Um, Looking at this list, no other big names that are really standing out to me. But yeah, just another 450 LCQ. Justin, any notes on that?
Same shit, different day. Literally. 450, I mean, you could probably throw six guys' names out there, and almost every single week, those four of the six are going to be in it. And unless there's a factory guy that somehow has to go through it, but other than that, it's going to be like these six guys on rotation every single week.
Yep, and then Pulp MX, they have their privateer race in Denver coming up. Really doesn't even seem like there's much buzz around these rider standings, and I think a lot of guys are in it. He did announce that our guy, our biggest fan, Billy Laninovich, is gonna be a wild card, so that's gonna be cool.
It's
To
going to be
see out
sweet.
there, make some extra cash. But all right, well, that's it for LCQs. Let's jump right into our main events, East-West Showdown. We were talking about this for weeks leading up to, which is the best coast, who's going to show up. These are the favorites. This is what we think is going to happen. We all agree that, the East-West shootouts are going to play a huge factor in the championships, and they definitely have. And we'll go over, the point standings on each coast, once we wrap up. But Justin, we talked on it, getting the start really helped out on this track. That's exactly what happened to Seth Hamaker. 19 laps, pretty sure he led every single one of them. Just, clicked him off. Was still running a pretty decent pace out there. He was actually still almost the fastest. Hayden Deegan was right there behind him, but incredible ride for South Hamaker, and it's just good to see PC kind of catch a break and get back on the top of the box.
Yeah, I mean, Seth, I think we all kind of knew he had this in him. I think it seems like he just couldn't stay healthy. It's good to see that like you said, PC finally some good luck after last week, kitchen yard selling again. McAdoo having to get his surgery done. But yeah, Hammaker went out there and put the PC reins on his back and showed out for everyone and was very impressive. He didn't look out of control. He looked very comfy. It was very impressive. It's just like I just don't get how sometimes either PC, these guys are either way up here and beating everyone, or they're just mid pack and yard selling left and right. And it seems like all these PC guys are very start dependent. Everything relies on the
Yeah,
start. You know, Kitchen, he can't move up unless he really has a start. McAdoo may be an exception. He's pretty good at moving up. Marchbanks doesn't move up much. Masterpool is kind of a rookie a little bit in his
yeah.
250 on a factory bike, and Hammaker normally struggles to move up. So it just seems with these PC bikes and these PC riders, if they don't get a start, they're maybe only going to move up one or two positions in the main event. So it's good to see that Hammaker got a start and he was able to hold off everyone and didn't have to, come through the pack. So it's nice to see him run some consistent laps and lead everything.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if you watch, this 250 coast all year long, the winner has gotten, if not the whole shot, second place probably every single time. I don't think there's
Hmm.
really been anyone that's came through, say, a seventh, sixth, or fifth place start and kind of came up and got the win. Um, but yeah, I mean, everything went his way, right? Hayden Deegan didn't get a really good start. Nancy was buried. Once
Davies
again.
17th, Davies 17th
Yeah,
to
Davies
5th.
went down. Yeah,
Dude,
so
this
I mean,
guy,
it's just one of those tracks that he got the start. He rode clean laps, and it helped because there's a lot of chaos going on behind him.
yeah, that Davies ride was very impressive. Every week we keep saying it, but there's nothing else you can say but impressive. I mean, 17th to 5th in the East-West shootout. I mean, that's very impressive.
Yeah, I think he was
And
the only one that was blitzing the whoops the entire time too.
yeah, some of those videos I saw of him, that rear end was bouncing around everywhere, but he stayed committed to it. Grip that seat, hold tight with those knees, and just twist that throttle. And good
Yeah,
luck. But um, I really want to see what he can do in outdoors and next year. I'm very excited to see what Davies comes out swinging with.
yeah, that is going to be interesting to see him in outdoors and see because I think he did a couple combines, maybe. I don't think he really did good. I think Adams, beat him pretty easily, but
I think he was beating Adams in one of them, and I think he tucked the front at the end of it or crashed at
oh
the
yeah,
end of
maybe.
it. I think it was Iron Man or something, but he was kind of hanging in there with Adams, so that it's going to be interesting to see what comes outdoors because he's definitely going to be full outdoors. It won't be a combine or half and half.
Right. Right. So yeah, once again, shout out to Hammaker, a great ride, way to get it done. First win in 4 years, so quite the gap. Tom Biao, I mean, he's been quiet all year long. Another quiet second place. Thought maybe technical ruts he might be able to chase down Hammaker. Really wasn't able to. And then Deegan tops out the podium. Same thing. I really thought once Deegan got up to third that Deegan was going to be able to chase these guys down, but I mean his gap behind Tom Vial, kind of stayed, and then Deegan had a close call trying to hit that quad, and then Deegan had a
Hmm.
close call where he actually ended up going over the berm underneath the net, and that after that point it was basically done. But he wasn't really ever in striking distance of Vial. I think he was always, 2 to 3 seconds off of his pace.
Yeah, it looks like he finished about 7.5 seconds. I thought he was toasted after I saw him in that net. I thought he was stuck in that net, and I don't know how he squirmed underneath that net. But yeah, he got lucky. I mean, because just think, if your bike gets caught in that, you can
It
kind of
was
kiss
it
your
was
race
it was it
goodbye.
because he tried hitting that quad again?
I don't really remember quite exactly. I just remember them kind of panning to it after, and he was just kind of already over the tough blocks. I
Yeah,
haven't seen a
because
video of what it was, but I think it was he was trying to do that. I'm guessing.
Jet Lawrence was on the call during the 250, and he mentioned about it. Like he kind of made a comment, is like, see, like, hey, like when the championship's on the line, you got to know what risks are worth taking or not. And it was like kind of compared to that. So that's what makes me wonder if Deegan was still trying to send that quad when there really was no reason to. No one else was doing it. But Jet kind of, alluded to it. Is like, hey, like this is kind of what we're talking about. Like Deegan's issues is that he's got to understand when to just accept a third and throttle it down and ride clean before he does something like this. But he pulls a Prado, grabs onto the net, dislocates his shoulder, and he's done. There goes the title. It's something that easily could have been avoidable.
100%. I think we've all kind of talked about how Deegan pushes sometimes too far when he shouldn't. I think that was a clear example of it. At least he was smart enough after that. He kind of backed it down and maybe had he definitely had an oh shit moment going through that. And maybe, whoever's mechanic is, I forgot his name, but maybe he just kind of told him, calm down. You're in third. You got a gap. No one
Yeah.
was really closing on him at all. RJ wasn't really moving up. Beaumer was in eighth. I mean, Beaumer finished eighth, so Beaumer was in the back. Back. It wasn't worried. It wasn't a points issue.
Hmm.
Like, hey, you got 5 spots between you guys. I mean, you're gonna have a huge points lead after this race. So, hey, just ride it in, chill it out, be smart, and just finish this race. The podium's just as good as a win in this moment, pretty much.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows, maybe he'll do. I mean, he has a big enough points lead now. Looking at the
I
rest of
think
the
it's 12.
class,
I think it's 12
yeah.
points.
Looking at the rest of the class, I mean, a couple of tough finishes. Chance Hymas 21st. He basically kind of falls out of that title chase. Cody
Did you
Shaw
see his
goes down
crash?
to a 17th. Hymas's?
Yeah.
No, I
He was the
didn't.
he was the one who crashed on the over under, coming down the backside of the over under across the
Oh,
start.
okay,
Before that was him that was down, and he was down for a while. It looked like.
okay. Cody Shock 17th, big step back after racing the 450 class. Moseman 15th, Thrasher 14th, Forkner was 12th outside the top 10. Bennick 11th, and then RJ 4th. You already mentioned Davies 5th. Shimoda and Anstey didn't really look great all day either. I'm kind of curious to see. Maybe he's not really the best rider either, but we'll kind of see. But Justin, what about you? Anything else stand out to you as far as um, the main event, the showdown?
I definitely think Anstey finishing seventh. That was kind of disappointing, but he was kind of buried a little bit off the start, so kind of had to work his way through. He doesn't have the points lead now, which kind of sucks. That was
Yeah, so
huge.
let's jump into that. Looking at the 250 East, yeah, like you said, I mean, we were just talking about. It seemed like this was a title that Anstey had, well within his hands. Had a rough Daytona. This week it wasn't good either. So yeah, Vial 79 points, Anstey a point back. Hammaker is 11 back, so he's still got a ways to go. RJ Hampshire sitting at 12 back, so he's still very much in it. And then Thrasher from there kind of falls off quite a bit at 53 points. But yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about it all year. This is kind of what Tom Vial's done is he's not going to have these throwaway races, which Max has already had a couple of them. I mean, Vial still hasn't won a race, and yet here he is, holding the red plate, and now the pressure falls back over to Anstey.
Yeah, Anstey. It's almost like a replication of last year, except his bike hasn't blown up. He was leading, I believe, after 2 rounds last year, and then he had a bike blow up, which pretty much threw him out of it. But this year, he just kind of, last 2 races, he's lost a lot of points. This week, he lost a lot. And Vial, like you said, he's always quiet. Last year, he had a horrible, start at Detroit, but it was always quiet. It was always digging this, digging that, and Vial was just always right there, nice and quiet, and sneak the title out. I think Vial, this may be Vial's title now. If Fantasy can't figure it out in this, their next 2 races that they have. Um,
I would still
Hammaker,
lean probably Anstey as the title favorite right now because I do think he's faster than Vial. I just think maybe it's just two tough races in a row. Let me ask you this: which stretch do you think is tougher? The West going Triple Crown, taking what, a 2 week break, and then going back to another Triple Crown, so back to back Triple Crowns, or the East getting a break, going to Daytona, and then when you come back, you're racing an East-West shootout.
I'd probably say West. I think West doing their triple crown like at Glendale, and then you get thrown into this 2 weeks off, and you have to go right back into a triple crown. I mean, just that intensity that you have to have for triple crowns, like back-to-back triple crowns, especially being away from the races for 2 weeks. You kind of have to get your pace back a little bit. You can't, you have to be right on it from right away. You have to be full sprint speed. You can't, kind of, hey, have a couple, bad laps in those first few laps in the main and then, turn it on. East Coast, it definitely has got to be hard, going from that Daytona setup, uh, you know, to an Indy East-West showdown. I mean, that's got to be tough, but also I think it favors the East Coast with how deep and rough even Daytona was coming into Indy. These East Coast guys have definitely dealt with rougher tracks than these West Coast guys. The West Coast guys really only had Arlington, I would say, that was really rutted and deep.
Hmm.
So I think it gave the East Coast guys an advantage because Daytona was filthy, and then coming to Indianapolis, and that was worse. And even Tampa wasn't great. Tampa, that sand section they had to deal with, the lits were starting to get rutted up. So I think it definitely favored the East and the West Coast. It's harder for them to do that because they had a week off and then they went, or was it 2 weeks off, and then they had to come back into a showdown. So they have these weird breaks that they're doing for these West Coast guys, and I don't know if I really like it. Kind of really throws a hinge in the like the swing of things for the coast because you've gone
Yeah,
triple crown off, triple crown off, East West showdown. That's tough.
yeah, the schedule has been a mess this year. I'm not really sure like how it is, but I mean, for a new fan trying to keep track of the East and the West and who's racing what, it's got to be so complicated because of, all right, we're gonna do West for a few rounds. Right now, we're gonna go East for a round or two. All right, now we're going back. It's just kind of back and forth. So I don't know what the issue is with the scheduling. Why not just make all the triple crowns, East West shootouts and kind of go from there. But yeah, I don't know, definitely word schedule. Going into the 250 West points, Hey Deegan, pretty comfortable lead, like you said, 12 points over Beaumare, Davies 104. So 25 points, basically a full race, and then Shimoda 102. I mean, unfortunately for how excited, this title was at the very beginning when Julian was showing up and ripping. I just don't see anything that points to Julian being able to bounce back and get this title back from Deegan's hands, unless Deegan were to go down and crash and get a DNF. But I think he's got a comfortable enough lead knowing that, hey, I just need to ride smart now. I just need to get this title and, bring it in. But what about you?
Yeah, I think especially with the next track we go to, Seattle, I definitely is going to favor Deegan with it being deep and rough and rutted. And then you go to then they got Colorado and Utah. I mean that Utah maybe favors Julian because it's going to be hard packed, but you're also at
But
elevation, so
by
you
then
never
it
know
could
what's going
be
to
over.
happen. Yeah,
It could be
exactly.
over by
So,
then.
yeah, I think Beaumare's kind of too far behind the eight ball now.
And that was
After
just
these bad
West Coast
Arlington,
races. You
yeah,
just
it's the
named the
remain.
next West Coast.
Next West Coast is Seattle.
Yeah. But those races you
Yeah.
named off, Seattle, Denver, and Utah, those are all the remaining West Coast races.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's
There's
what I'm
still
talking about.
East
Yeah,
in the
just
middle
for
of that, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But just for those races though, you got it just favors Deegan, I think, the
Yeah.
total track number two, kind of the thing, and then like you said, being 12 points up, Deegan just survives Seattle, and who knows, Beaumare can get a seventh with the way he's been riding. I mean, that title might be locked up
Yeah,
in Denver.
what's crazy is, with this race here at Indy, I feel like everyone was saying, like, all right, with Deegan, it's going to be one or the other. He's going to either come out here and blow these dudes' doors off and show that he is the fastest man out there, which he did in qualifying and he did in his heat race, no doubt. Or it was going to be like, no, Deacon's gonna, kind of ride over his head. The moment's going to get to him, and he's going to end up getting like an eighth. Kind of similar to what we saw, Beaumare do. But I mean, Deegan getting a third, that was, to be honest, that's kind of what those championship rides are made of, right? It's an East-West shootout. There's a lot on the line. A lot can change. We saw what happened with Anstey, and Deegan just kind of went out there, rode just kind of a solid ride for the most part until, he kind of went over that berm. But I mean, this is a race that, a year or two ago, we see Deegan maybe hit the deck or get a really bad number on the board and, cost him this title. But him getting a third to me is just like, hey, that's what you do in these titles. Your worst night's still got to be, pretty solid.
Yeah, you could definitely say it was like a salvage. He kind of settled, but he did have that chance. He did make that mistake that he normally does, where him going into that net could have been way different. It could have been
Hmm.
him going over the bars into that berm. It could have been him going into that net full ejecto cedo, cuz you never know what could have happened. So he kind of got lucky there. He still made that little mistake that was like, come on, like you said, Jet was talking about it. Like, hey, you can't be doing that. I think he still needs to learn that a little bit.
Hmm.
I think it shows a little bit of progress after he did that he did settle. That he was like, oh crap, what am I doing? I got a title, I got to win. So yeah, that second part after he made that mistake shows that little bit of improvement. I didn't hear much like smack talk this week. I wonder if he
Hmm.
kind of kept it quiet, knowing these East boys didn't care. They'll come and throw it to you. So
Which
wonder if maybe.
who was it? Shimoda. I think Shimoda raced Deegan pretty hard there for a little bit in
Mhm.
that main event.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, we just seen a different Deegan out on a put. Even Arlington, he was
yeah,
just
humbled.
way
Seems
more.
like.
It's almost like he watched clips of himself. He was like, "Oh man, that's super cringy. I need to stop doing that."
Yeah, Brian probably stepped in and said, "You sound like a fucking douchebag, dude. Quit
Yeah,
it."
right.
Or
Yeah, I mean,
or or Bobby Reagan called them like how Bobby called Anstey that one night or whatever.
yeah, right.
Bobby's like, dude, you sound like a fool. You got your doors blown off by Bomer. I should have signed him over you. He probably probably said some shit, talk shit to him to make him maybe shut up. But it definitely seems like maybe he kind of is, you know, now that he's so far deep into the championship, maybe now that he
Hmm.
has this points lead, maybe he's like, okay, I don't need to be talking this shit. I don't need to be doing this stupid stuff. Maybe I can just keep going and doing what we're doing. So maybe that's part of it as well. He's just kind of finally realizing I'm leading this title. It's literally in my hands, but it should have been in his hands anyways because he was the title favorite to start out with, and he kind of made those mistakes in the first couple rounds and let Bomer
Yeah.
kind of do things.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? We might be looking back at Deegan's career to this point of Arlington, and then now this one where, Deegan was super humble, super mature about everything, wasn't talking shit to anyone, and who knows, maybe that's the maturing he needed to take his career to that next step. Um, all right, that's it for 250s. Going over into the 450 main event. I'll tell you what, both of these main events really didn't give me the exciting racing that I was hoping for. Both of them very much, Cooper Webb got the whole shot, or not, Barsha got the whole shot. Webb passed him and then took off from there, and then that was really it.
Blue Crew, baby.
Shout out to Jay Coop, second overall, his best finish. Um, Shout out to CJ. We've been keeping an eye on that Justin Cooper and Malcolm Stewart into the year bet, and Jay Coop's kind of holding that one down.
I don't remember what that
Um,
was.
yeah. Um, Sexton with a third. He got up to second, thought he was gonna do all right, goes down in the sand, and then that was kind of it. He had nothing left for Jay Coop. Barsha, really great ride there with a fourth. AP with a fifth. Malcolm sixth, Roxon seventh. He went down that first turn, kind of sucked. Dylan Ferrandis, Justin Hill, and then McElrath round out the top 10. Anderson also went down with Roxon. He finished with an 11 overall. But yeah, I mean, say you can't say it anymore. I mean, Cooper Webb was the fastest guy on the track at Indy, and he showed it, and he completely checked out. And this is the form of Coop that we're not used to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, Coop's got to be feeling good. I mean, he was never talked about in this title. To start out with the beginning of the year, it was Jet, Tomac, Sexton. That's all it was about. And then, Jet gets hurt. Oh, it's still Tomac, Sexton. No one's talking about Webb. Then Tomac gets hurt. Finally, Webb gets mentioned into it, but people were still like, this is Sexton's title to lose. And Webb's put that chip on his shoulder, and he's just come out with something to prove pretty much every week. This week for him to get a whole or pretty much a whole shot, that second place start up front like that, and to pass and run away and lead the whole main, very unusual, and that's very dangerous, especially on this type of track, being this rough and rutted. I mean, it's just what's more can he do to prove? I mean, he's just everyone's daddy, it looks like this year. And this stuff, he's just Arlington was deep, this week was deep, and he's just running away with it.
Yeah, I still think there's still, the back talk of, hey, Sexton still is the fastest guy in this class. He just had some really bad races, and Webb has just been there to take advantage of it. He's just kind of been sitting back, and like I said, it's no fault to Webb. It's part of it. That's what Sexton does, and he just kind of let it fall right into his lap, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, we'll see if Sexton can figure this out.
Does
Was
this
he
kind of
15 back now?
Yeah, something like that. Does this kind of, I am not comparing him to him, Sexton to this guy. Disclaimer right now, because I know people are going to try to roast me about it. But does this kind of remind you of how Ricky and Reed were talking about how Stu, they knew he was the fastest, but they just had to wait for him to make a mistake because they knew he would make a mistake and crash or do something, and that they just knew, that's what it was for them to win. It almost kind of reminds me of that, like Sexton, like, yeah, he is the fastest guy out there, and these guys are just waiting for him to make a mistake. Like Webb just sits back and waits, and Sexton just kind of does it on his own. And after like thinking about that, kind of makes sense. But in no shape or form is Sexton Stu, never will be, never was. But just
No,
that kind of
yeah.
that being the fastest guy this year, and he still can't finish it and put it together.
Yeah, because no, I mean, kind of yes and no, right? Like, yeah, they both were crazy fast and both crashed. Stewart crashed because he was just ridiculously fast and he was just hauling
Yeah,
ass and lost control. That's not Sexton.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sexton loses the battle in his head when he's hitting the gate for main events and you know going down trying to make a pass knowing that he had the race won. That's I think that's the most frustrating part with Sexton is everyone agrees that he is fast as shit and that he should be running away with this title, but the guy can't get out of his own way and it's all in his mental head. And that's the most frustrating thing. It's just like, dude, like you should be running away with this title, but you're making these dumb mental mistakes that are costing you. And then it's just one after another. This week, maybe it wasn't as bad. I mean, Cooper was going to run away with that no matter what. But once again, dude, that's another round where you made another crash and you end up losing second because of it and dropping down to a third. So even on these nights, it was still another tough night for Sexton. It just it's crazy because you see how good he is when everything's clicking, and
Hmm.
he probably is unbeatable, honestly, when everything's clicking, but it's just so hard for him to get there. It's either 100% or it's 70 and it's all over the place and mental mistakes and you can't count on them. So I mean, we talked about it a few weeks back when we had this mishap when Sexton hit the gate that I was full on board with Webb because Webb's not going to make those mistakes. And looking at the rest of the schedule, unless something really bad goes, I mean, Webb's going to podium every race from here on out.
Yeah, 100%.
So
It's
and Sexton
Sexton
would
just
have to win every race to even make it close.
Yeah, and you just got to think of that like Sexton's championships that he's won in the past. Like I brought up a few episodes ago. He wasn't going to win the title. He was the fastest guy, but obviously he couldn't keep it on two wheels, and Tomac was going to win that title until he tore his Achilles. Sexton, may have not been the fastest, but him and Jet and Outdoors would have been great to watch all year. But, Jet killed himself in Hangtown and, gave a huge points lead, and Sexton was able to win it. So it's really worrisome as a manufacturer signing him. Of course, you want to sign him because he's the fastest guy. He's very likable around the pits. Fans like him. But like you said, it's just you cannot make these mental mistakes. If you want to be a champion, you cannot be doing this stupid shit. This is what loses you titles, and it's proven it clear as day. Like everyone thought it was the Honda. Everyone thought, oh, Sexton makes
Hmm.
all these mistakes because it's the Honda. It's the Honda. And we now know it's not the Honda. It's
Well,
him.
to be fair, I think some of it was a Honda because the Honda was always the same thing. That front was being tucked. Now it's
But is
not even
that
so
because he's
much as
pushing
the
too hard?
riding; it's more the fact of his dumb bonehead moves of hitting the gate and then crashing right after that, and then going
Running
down and
into
losing
web.
losing the overall when he didn't have to. Like that's the kind of shit that's just dumb. Like it's not you can't blame that on any bike. It doesn't matter what he was riding. That's all mental and upstairs. I don't know. Maybe he needs to get a new helmet. Maybe those A stars is squeezing his head too tight, and he needs to get a new helmet.
Is he training by himself? Is he doing all his own training, like with his own riding? Is his dad still his riding coach, or is he at Baker?
I think so. No, I don't think he's that Baker. She's still just doing it his own thing.
So it's probably his dad still. Do you think maybe he needs to work? I know he tried working with Stu. I think he was at Baker for a little bit, maybe. But do you think he needs to go find someone? Maybe someone that was meant. Maybe he needs to go be with Rhino. Maybe Rhino needs to make him push his bike around the whole track or something a few times and get him some nice knee pads, And I mean, maybe he just needs to go find some help, like a mental coach. Maybe
I
someone
think
that's
that
had that
that's
adversity.
it's not the
Maybe
writing. I
something.
mean, the writing still looks great. It's just the mental. So yeah, he needs to go see some kind of mental strength coach, some kind of psychiatrist, and go talk to him and get that mental built back up and strong and confident. Who knows? Maybe he's going to benefit from this break. Maybe he'll go do something, go surf, clear his mind out. He'll come back, swinging and go on an absolute tear. I wouldn't put it past him.
At least he didn't
But
cry on TV this week.
that's true. Um, but yeah, so that's it for the 450 class. It'll be a really great weekend out at Indy. We do have a week break coming up, so we won't be on next Monday, but we will be right back when they're going to Bama,
Birmingham, yeah. I
Birmingham, and
kind of
that's
like that
where
stadium.
we'll jump right over into the track map. Birmingham, newer stadium. This is the second year that they did it. Very similar to like a Snapdragon. Cool little unique track here. They have a little like 360 donut sand
Sand
section
turn.
in there, so that's going to be a little bit different over the over under. Some more really long rhythm sections, typical whoop section. But yeah, no, I mean it looks like it's a good track. Looks like it's going to race pretty well. Um, we've gotten pretty lucky as far as weather goes this year, so hopefully it continues this weekend because I thought last year this one got some rain.
I think they were planning on for some rain. Yeah, I think they did get a little bit of rain. Yeah, because I think they did. Because I think they took like a triple and made it a double. I think Webb won it or something like
Yeah, I
that.
think they
It
prepared
was
for the rain and then it didn't end up raining.
yeah, and so everyone's like, dude, they're riding like an amateur supercross track out.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. I think every track needs the over under bridges. I think it just allows for better racing because it adds normally another lane or
Hmm.
another cool short section. So it always creates something because sometimes there's over unders. People try to scrub them. They clip a foot peg on the top. Landings get slippery. So I think every track needs one, and I think it's cool. It's like a 270-degree sand section. That's gonna create some problems. I can just see someone coming inside and slamming someone going outside onto that sand. It's gonna be good. There's a couple good passing opportunities. I think when you come back on just before the finish, you have that one rhythm section on the right with the
Hmm.
triple. I think that's going to create a lot of passing. People coming out of the sand, that little tight 180. There's going to be some block passes, and then before that, supercross triple block passes. And then you got just before the finish a 90-degree turn. Someone's going to get ran deep probably there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it looks like a fun track. I think it'll race pretty good. Let's just make sure that the weather is looking good. Going over into the betting segment, any bets or matchups that they released today?
So I did see. So we got a huge swing on the title now. Webb is minus 300 for the title to win,
Mm,
and Sexton plus 220, Roxon plus 400. So I think that's a huge, huge swing, especially. I mean, I would love to see what Webb was at the beginning of the season, plus 1,000 maybe, plus 800 probably.
yeah, at least.
Um, I got him at like 110 and 115, I think, and that was when he was tied up pretty much with the title. So, And then to win the race, you got Webb at plus 150, Sexton plus 225,
Hmm.
Rockton plus 300. And then those are your only people before we get to like a plus 1,000, which I
Okay.
think is Mookie.
And then any matchups out there?
Uh, right now, they actually adjusted one of these matchups. You got Malcolm Stewart versus Barsha. They got Malcolm
Ooh.
Stewart as the favorite, minus 166, and Barsha plus 130. And then you got your Webb versus Sexton, but Webb is minus 140, Sexton plus 110.
Okay, so a lot of these head-to-head matchups are kind of staying the same every week.
Yeah, I think what we have, I think the J Coop and AP one has been pretty good the last couple weeks. They've gone back and forth
Yeah.
on it.
Even AP and
Then
Malcolm, that one's pretty tough. They've been right there
yeah,
next to each other.
they
I mean,
added
I would
that.
probably take Malcolm over Barsha probably pretty
Yeah,
convincingly.
and then they started doing manufacturer. What
Oh yeah.
manufacturer to win for a race? So Yamaha plus 125, KTM plus 190, Suzuki plus 285. So
Hmm, interesting.
nothing crazy. Let's see if they got anything else out. I don't think they do. Maybe they do. Yeah, they haven't released anything else.
All right.
Hey, ever since Jet went out, they stopped that nationality thing. Could you imagine what it? Could you imagine what it would have been though? Like when Roxon won, what the
Oh
odds
yeah.
probably would have been? Like plus 600.
Oh yeah. Well, all right. That's gonna do it for this week. A little bit of a shorter show. Obviously, just the two of us kind of makes it go by pretty quick, but a great weekend of Supercross racing. We still have several rounds to go. We do have a break, spring break. Have fun out there, and then we're coming right back for Bama, and then we'll get a show out, that following week. But once again, thank you for listening. Give us a follow, subscribe, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and X. We appreciate the support. But that's it for myself and Justin. We will talk to you in a couple weeks. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, guys.